Patriots of Era and Kerry fans who were still celebrating. Do you remember the car that pulled into my driveway 6 weeks ago? An on-post whistleblower, financial fraud allegations and a Garda investigation now underway. Listen up, folks. I am making this statement today with a heavy heart and a deep sense of alarm at the way An Post has treated me, a private citizen, a mother and a public figure. Did you know, folks, that the minute you post a letter with An Post, you no longer own that letter? Neither does An Post. The Minister for Communications owns that letter. It is now beyond doubt in my mind that An Post are playing serious games with me. Games that are not only unprofessional, but potentially criminal in nature. Firstly, I have discovered a postman fraudulently forged my signature on a registered letter sent to me by Michael Healy-Rae's solicitor. This, folks, is fraud, pure and simple. And yet, shockingly, the same postman continues to deliver post to my home. How can An Post justify this? What does this say about their standards of integrity and their regards for my basic rights? Secondly, on numerous occasions, my post has been tampered with, opened before reaching me. This is a gross violation of privacy and a breach of trust between a national postal service and a citizen. But the most disturbing event occurred recently at Abbeyfield Post Office in Limerick. I went there, as instructed by An Post, to collect 2 registered letters. I had paperwork for those 2 only. However, the post mistress insisted from behind the counter, handed me 3 letters, despite me advising her that I had only paperwork for 2. The 3rd was not registered and I had no paperwork for it. It was addressed in an unusual way. Michelle Keane, Knocknagoshel, County Kerry, care of Abbeyfield Postmaster, Postmistress, Bridge Street, County Limerick, V94 NA02. This is the 3rd letter that wasn't registered. It was posted from Ontario in Canada. Inside was a card from Ontario, Canada, and a letter dated the 26th of June. It was signed by a woman calling herself Patricia, who claims to be a member of some law society. She referenced private, disturbing political content, including alleged recognition of Gary Kiernan, one of the men of the 2 who called in my yard with the car, which I had put up on social media videos, and links him to Jerry Adams and Fidel Castro commemorations, while also identifying herself as a victim of Sinn Féin and urging me to contact her by phone and email. I ask now, how did this woman know to send a letter to Abbeyfield? Because I live in County Kerry and the only people that know that I collect registered post is the postman and An Post. Why did the postmistress give it to me knowingly that I had no paperwork or prior notice of this? Was someone inside An Post involved in orchestrating or facilitating this? Is this an attempt to distract, intimidate or derail me from continuing to speak with whistleblowers or pursue my legal and political concerns? This is no longer just about An Post. It's about a pattern of interference, harassment and deeply inappropriate handling of my personal data and communications by An Post and potentially other actors. I am now formally demanding a full investigation into the forged signature incident with An Post and An Garda Síochána, a full report on who processed and who handed over the 3rd unsolicited card letter at Abbeyfield Post Office, and a full data protection audit on my mail handling, including surveillance footage and internal communication within An Post related to my name. A statement from An Post addressing these concerns. Clarity on who has access to my delivery patterns and private correspondence. I have kept all the relevant evidence, including the forged delivery slip, the suspicious letters and the envelopes. These will be provided now to the Data Protection Commissioner and, if necessary, to the Garda Síochána for further investigations. But back to the car that pulled into my driveway 6 weeks ago. The two individuals who refused to provide their full names or a clear reason to their visit, I knew something wasn't right. Now I understand why. I have since learned that the man's name is allegedly Gary and the woman with him is Susan, an employee of An Post. They were not casual callers. They were whistleblowers attempting to expose what they claimed to be serious fraud, corruption and human rights abuses, with An Post allegedly at the centre of it. I immediately reported the incident. I can now confirm that An Garda Síochána at Phoenix Park has opened a formal investigation. Gardaí are treating this as a credible report of suspicious visit and digital contact tied to serious allegations of financial fraud, harassment and institutional suppression involving An Post. The whistleblower, now publicly identified as Gary Kiernan, has compiled extensive evidence allegedly contained on a USB device, which has been shared with relevant parties. Gary Kiernan's allegations include that An Post allegedly engaged in wage theft and payroll fraud, falsifying financial records and misrepresenting salary and contract terms in breach of employment laws. But folks, he's also claiming that An Post allegedly permitted the spread of defamatory information about Gary Kiernan in direct retaliation for his whistleblowing activities. An Post allegedly failed to provide a safe working environment, exposing him to sustained bullying, harassment and psychological harm. An Post allegedly attempted to manipulate medical assessments using doctors with conflicts of interest to discredit Gary and undermine his credibility. An Post allegedly carried out unlawful dismissal on September 20th, 2024, after Gary submitted critical evidence denying him due process and access to investigative findings. An Post allegedly engaged in covert surveillance, mail tampering and harassment, including a suspected home intrusion and ongoing digital monitoring. An Post allegedly contributed to legal obstruction as over 20 solicitors, imagine this folks, 20 solicitors refused to engage with Gary's case. Even one doubled their consultations fees without explanation, suggesting outside pressure. An Post allegedly coordinated with or benefited from political and media silence, despite Gary Kiernan submitting evidence to TDs and national media outlets in June 2024 and March 2025. Gary also states that he's received direct threats in public, escalating his fears for his personal safeties. This is no longer an employment issue, it's a national justice issue. If a whistleblower can be isolated, harassed, financially sabotaged and ignored, what protections exist for anyone daring to come out and speak the truth, folks? We call now on the Irish media to investigate this matter urgently, public representatives to speak immediate answers, An Post to make official statement about this, and the human rights bodies to intervene and protect whistleblowers. And an independent inquiry needs to be set up into these serious and credible allegations. This is not acceptable, folks, if this is true. An Post is not above the law. And look, I see what they've done to myself. So if they've done this to me, I can't imagine what they do to a whistleblower working for them. And look, Gary Kiernan has submitted a USB device allegedly containing the full timeline, legal references and supporting documentation. He's prepared to speak out on record and cooperate fully with a transparent, independent investigation. Now, full protection needs to be given to Gary and Susan, because if anything happens to them or their safety, serious questions now will be raised. As I said, this has been reported now to the Gardaí from my end. And look, An Post aren't above the law. And this is a test of Ireland's value. Will we stand for the truth or surrender to silence? Look, as I said, the Gardaí are now investigating it. The public now must demand answers. And look, folks, I'm still pursuing the election rigging in Kerry and in Ireland, because ye, the great people of this country, deserve better. We live in a democracy, not for these corrupt politicians to be selected, not elected. We need this government out. We need to sort out all these messes. If An Post can think that they can get away for 1 minute for what they've done to me, they have another thing coming. Because I am not letting An Post get away with what's happened to me. And look, folks, if anyone wants to, contact me, please do so at info@michellekeane.ie. Gura míle maith agaibh.